HR tech, work tech, and investment are transforming the future of work. Are you in the know? Welcome to the Work Tech Podcast. Join host George LaRocque for expert insights on the trends, M&A activity, and strategies shaping the workplace. Brought to you by oneworktech.com and the Work Defined Network.
Okay, welcome everyone. I'm George LaRocque with Work Tech, and recently we've been in the frantic run-up to HR Tech and the HR Tech Investor Summit, and that's where I met Eric Elwer, the CEO and founder of Stepping Stone, and that's a AI-based hiring platform that interfaces with candidates, employers, and career offices. So along the way, I've been really impressed by the way Stepping Stone is approaching this, what I'm looking at as a new wave of technology that is taking advantage of, all of the vast amounts of data, and most importantly, the new capabilities available to us through AI. So I'm excited to share Stepping Stone with the market, and excited for you all to learn about it. Eric, welcome.
Hey, good morning, George. Thanks so much for the opportunity. Great to see you.
Yeah, it's great to see you as well. And so before we dig into Stepping Stone and what it is, let's get the backstory. First, an introduction. Tell everyone a little bit about yourself before we dig in.
Yeah, thanks. So by background, I'm a product and marketing executive by background. So through a variety of both full-time executive roles and the bunch of consulting work I've done, I very much have come up on the business side of things, working in a variety of different industries. Financial services, retail, consulting, and probably healthcare, and probably another half a dozen on top of that. So my passion lies on that. I'm a serial problem solver. I'm a guy who goes into a role for 2 to 3 years to solve problems, and then I'm on to the next one. And that's kind of been my background in history. And personally, grew up in Minnesota for the first 49 years of my life, and then 3 years ago, my wife and our 2 daughters moved down here to Arizona. So we're enjoying sun 365 days a year, and I've got a daughter who just graduated from college down here, and another one who's a junior in high school.
Yeah. So you're not in the path of monsoon season in Arizona? I mean, there is a monsoon season, which most people don't realize it, but so you're out of that.
We're totally out of that. Yeah. The idea that the pure dry heat down here is a total myth. When it's monsoon season, it's 110 and humid, and it's something to behold.
All right. Yeah. I was there for a few years, and saw some crazy weather, which it was unexpected, and they don't really tell you about it until it's happening. That was my experience. But
yeah, you haven't seen a lightning storm until you've seen a static lightning storm in Arizona. It is amazing.
Yeah. Amazing. Okay. So all right, so let's get into that backstory on Stepping Stone. So you talked about your background, and I always find this interesting. What led you to Stepping Stone? What with all that product and marketing and all those different industries, what led you here?
Yeah, I mean, the genesis of Stepping Stone really goes back to 2008, 2009. I knew a family of founders who were starting a couple staffing and consulting firms, and they wanted to start a young professional program, and they brought me in to be a part of the design team for that. And so I'd known them for years, and as they were launching this new product and service, I got to sit around a table and do some ideation with them. And so that was kind of the beginnings of a program that is now called Crew. So here we are 16, 17 years later. That's still a very active, very productive program. And what we built, our design, and they ultimately implemented, and I've had a kind of different roles along the way with them, was we would go on campus and over the course of a year, hire somewhere between 300 and 500 students with the idea that we'd put them through a boot camp, kind of 12 to 15 months of training in project delivery types of roles. And then they would convert to full-time employees of the Fortune 100, Fortune 500 clients that were clients of the firm. The cool thing that happened out of that, that got kind of stuck with me and was ultimately the reason I started doodling in a notebook a year and a half ago with Stepping Stone, was 2 things happened that were really cool with that. One, we got to hear from the young professionals, the students, or the recent college grads, just how productive the start of their career was. And there was nothing magic about the training we were doing, and nothing magic about the experience we were delivering, other than being really intentional about it. But we got to watch them have a pretty meaningful launch to their careers, and that felt pretty great. And then on the employer side of that, we got to hear things oftentimes when, for example, George, if you were one of our young professionals and we're converting at 12 to 15 months, it wasn't uncommon for us to hear, what's going on, or what are you doing with George? He's like as productive as our 3 and 4 year employees. And so I got to watch a really cool thing happen on the candidate side. A really cool thing can happen on the employer side. And as I was wrapping up some work, some consulting work back in end of 2022, Stepping Stone kind of came back. This idea of how can we take those experiences and not do 300 to 500 a year, but how do you scale that, right? How do you help deliver those experiences on both sides of that equation at scale? So let's not do 300 to 500. How do we do 10,000? How do we do half of the undergrads in the United States on a given year? And so that was the beginnings of it, starting all the way back in 08, 09.
Okay. What I love about it is, so most of the stories all of us have, it's, folks, this market finds you. Very few people sort of wake up with the idea. If they've been in the market, they might, but,
Sure.
And that's very much what I heard in one of those stories. Like it suddenly became, a problem you felt you could solve and something that you had passion for.
Mhm.
And now you're here. So I hate to tell you this, but it's like Hotel California. Like you can check out anytime you want, but you'll never leave.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Well, the joke
yeah,
I share with my team and some of my friends and colleagues is I feel like I'm probably almost unemployable back into the corporate world. I don't think I can do it after being a part of this. This has been fascinating and the most
yeah,
rewarding and frustratingly wonderful thing I've ever done. So
yeah. So I'm going to ask you one of those, startup, investor questions. Like, so what's your why? What's Stepping Stone's why?
yeah, it's great. And so our company why is my personal why. And as the founder, I haven't been bashful about bringing some of these things into the company culture, but it's service. I think we're here to serve others. And, through the collection of kind of my experiences and the skills I've been gifted with, and this is a problem I really love. The piece that happened as I started doodling in a notebook with Stepping Stone is my oldest daughter, Sydney, was just graduating from college. And she came out and plopped down next to me sitting outside one morning, and she was in tears because she was frustrated with her own job search experience as she was just getting started. And so, and she's a smart kid and it's got all the kind of the soft skill attributes you would want. And how do we serve that? How do we offer up and bring a solution to the market that doesn't have really qualified, wonderful young people in tears and frustrated with, trying to maximize and take advantage of the investment they've made into their education. And so the why is service. It's not about us. It's about how do we contribute to the greater good. That's
Yeah,
my and our why.
yeah. So you've been on this, the first couple of years, this early stage journey with that. That's an excellent why. That's a North Star that you can so much along the way to if you ever reach that destination. It's
Mm.
just always changing. So along your way, I'm curious, has anything surprised you? Have there been any learnings that caused you to, shift gears, change, or the problem you thought you were solving is one a little
Mhm.
different now? Anything like that along the way?
Yeah, I can think of two. When I
Okay.
first started, literally doodling, and I keep it at my desk because that's a reminder. But like, there's like page one. I don't know if it's hard to see or not, but that's literally day one scribbles. I talked about things like speed and accuracy around this notion and idea of matching employers and young people, kind of scaling what I described earlier. As I got further into it and started having ideas and bouncing it off people on my network and other folks in different realms, the word that came roaring back that has really become our guidepost is personalization. There's so much going into this experience for employers, candidates, and we'll talk about career services as well, because that's kind of the three-legged stool or the example, the target market, the triad that we're servicing. There's so much that is taken away from personalization and allowing candidates to tell their story. That's our kind of our guiding light. How do we personalize this experience? Because on the employer side, they want to know who these people are that are applying for these jobs in a way that's not represented on the resume. And certainly on the candidate side, and for sure for young people, I want you to know who I am, and we want to give them the opportunity to advocate for themselves. So the first one was personalization. The second one is, again, I had this concept of matching, and I was somewhat familiar with some of the things happening in AI, in the AI space. But I would say the second big learning for me is it's incredible how smart these tools are. It's incredible how smart this technology is. And so I've been blown away by the precision with which, and again with the nod to the personalization with which we can actually, I think, change this experience. So those two things were the two big learnings for me.
Yeah, there was all this, all of these goals in the market that in any given category in HR tech that, and it would usually be around the user. So personalization is a great example of that. I think everybody's been striving really hard to achieve for decades around experience, personalization, things like that. But it was all aspirational, and it sort of could be done, but it was really hard. And it rarely took shape for the recipient, the user, the candidate, the employer, in the way that was originally envisioned. But now that is all sort of in the scrap heap, and it's like a blank slate with AI, and that comes with opportunity and challenge. But I really I really understand what you're saying there. I think everyone in the market will as well. It is just the even just a year ago, what could be done, and what we're seeing now is changing so fast. But yeah, so I want to get into the product. So thank you for humoring me with your backstory and sort of how you got here. You talked about the triad, the three-legged stool. How do you describe the product? I know that we've spent a little time, so I know that's one of the things that is interesting is that you go pretty deep in a few areas. So how would you frame the product for everyone? What's what is Stepping Stone, and how does it work?
Yeah, and so just to take the triad one step deeper, obviously employers looking for candidates and candidates looking for opportunities, and then the third actor in our story is career services, particularly for young people. And what we've built is certainly scalable and applicable to 5, 10, 15, 20 years into my career. That's a whole separate exercise for the business, but for the go-to-market, we're really focused on college students and career services. Their primary goal is placement rate. And so as we started thinking about the business, it's like, all right, so we've got employers who are looking for candidates looking for opportunities. Kind of where do they converge? Well, for this demographic, they converge at career services. And so as we built the product, we've built it with those folks in mind as well. Because again, they're there to serve and bring resources to the employers who recruit on campus, and obviously they're wildly engaged and advocating for their students to find roles at the end of their educational career. So that's a little bit deeper dive into kind of our target market. And then as far as the product goes, I thought just might be easiest just to show you if we could do that.
Great, let's do it.
All right, what I'll show you is I'll do a quick little overview of. We'll start with the candidate experience first. And so what you see on screen here is, and the character up in the right is Stella. So I'm going to stop talking about technology and actually refer to it as Stella, because we've named our AI agent Stella. And so Stella has a role with career services, she has a role with candidates, and she has a role with employers. And it's a little bit different in terms of how she shows up as an actor with each of the three. But what you're looking at here is a real quick view of the candidate experience. And what Stella does is, she obviously has information about you, and what she can do in real time is read a job description, and actually not just read it, but understand context. And so what she's serving up for a candidate is a recommendation. So one of the things college students struggle with is clarity and confidence. And so clarity, do my skills match what this employer is looking for? And if I don't have clarity about that, there's no way I'm going to have confidence about it. So on the candidate side, Stella is really, her job is to bring clarity and confidence to it. And then once we find a strong match, through what we call the live resume, help that student tell their story in a way that a traditional resume doesn't. So it's a Chrome plugin, and she can, again, read job descriptions in a variety of different places. But think about her as kind of this job search assistant that's coming along with a student who's looking for a job.
Okay, so we're on we've just searched up a project manager job at what looks like Blue Cross Blue Shield of Nebraska, and Stella is just that on the right side of the screen as a plug.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. Cool. In not just the matching piece of this in terms of the intelligence there. The other piece where we think is unique about us, and we think wildly important, it's one thing to understand where my skills are a particularly strong match. It's another thing, and I think an equally valuable thing, to understand what skills I don't have for this particular job or for this particular employer. If I'm really excited about a project manager job and I'm a student coming out of college, of course I don't have all the skills yet because I haven't done the job yet, right? And so not only do we show where you're particularly strong as it pertains to a job, we will also serve up, here are the skills you'll need to build. And then we've got a whole nother arm of the business where we actually serve up learning content to help them close those skill gaps. And on the back end, we're keeping track of all that stuff as a part of helping them build and tell their story, and then ultimately into some career path and things. So that's at a high level, kind of the intelligence of what Stella is doing for candidates.
That's great. And it's, I think the markets on the employer side is fearful right now of like the onslaught of candidates who are just applying, to thousands of jobs at once without stopping and taking account of this type of, fit. Where do I fit? Should I apply? And what information should I be sharing when I apply about myself? Being intentional about the process, and leveraging AI in a way that's going to help me do that. That's standing out is going to get much harder in this world of AI driven massive, apply tools. And I think this is an interesting approach to helping candidates really stand out in the long term.
Cool. I think you and I talked about it before, that kind of that homogenization of the candidate pool isn't helping candidates or employers, right? And so you've got these things that are these AI resume spammers, for lack of a better term, that really fast, but really dilutive in terms of a candidate telling why they're uniquely qualified for a particular position. And you think about the employer side of this, I don't think about it because I talk to them. They're starting to see 500 or 1,000 applicants for a job. How do you possibly deal with that, right? And so, candidate 743 might be the perfect candidate, right? That'll never get seen because there's 742 ahead of them. And so this homogenization is a strategy that's becoming more prevalent, as we both know. We're going a different direction. We think personalization is where candidates want to be and employers want to be as well. And so we're building towards that.
Yeah.
And then just real quick on the employer side, Stella, again, we're doing the same. It's kind of two sides of the same coin, where we're using, kind of matching and generative capabilities, where this case, Stella's a little more anonymous. Think about her as maybe Oz behind the curtain, but she's able to do the same thing. She's able to catch resumes and whatever information you have on your application form, evaluate that against your job description, and a bit more than that we can talk about. But essentially, then she's going to render back, here's a match score. And again, we're not doing keyword matching. One of our other goals is to bury keyword matching, because that's, again, doesn't serve or help anybody. So one, we'll give you a score of kind of proximity of closeness between the candidate and what you're looking for in the job. And then using generative capabilities, think about this as replacing the screening interview. We're able to show you, here's where we found evidence of things that are important to you in your job description. Here's a couple things we don't see evidence of. So if these are your top 5 or 20 candidates, and you're going to go interview those folks, here's the stuff to press on. We've already deduced and helped understand kind of where the hits are and some things to press on. So we talk about it to employers is, let us do like the $10 to $15 an hour work. You guys go do the $100 to $200 an hour work in working with your best candidates, and we can kind of help you save you a bunch of time and effort on that.
Okay. Cool. So then I think that really shows, the power of the matching and the personalization. How does the career office fit in? Like, is it just sort of a conduit, or how do you view them in that triad?
Yeah. So career services folks, and I'm going to be kind of generally speaking here, but I think it's true across a variety of different universities, from small to large, from well-resourced to maybe less resourced. There's not enough career services resources available to students. There's just not. And it's not that it's their fault. It's just a funding and budgetary issue for the most part. And so we've created Stella to be what we call a career services assistant as well. And so think about it as excess or additional capacity for the career services team. And at a high level, the way this works is they bring us into their career services technology and process, kind of standard processes. And so if I'm a student looking for help with thinking about my job search, I might go schedule a one-on-one appointment, or I might also learn about Stella, right? And so the career services becomes part of our marketing arm, telling students about, hey, we've got this new resource on campus here that's available to you. And rather than starting with what should I be when I grow up. A student might be able to go in, actually use Stella, come up with some matches, and now I'm going to sit down with my career counselor and let's talk about how do I position myself? Help me think through applying for and talking to this employer, Blue Cross Blue Shield in that example we had. Help me talk through how to be successful in an interview. So now we've actually fast forwarded that conversation and allowed the career services folks to have meaty, really meaningful conversations for folks when they show up, but also then having a scalable opportunity for them to get some insights about where they are and are not strong for different types of jobs. And we've created a business model pretty unique for career services as well that is resonating. And we talk internally about, we want to make it really hard for them to say no. And we don't put any barriers in place for them to be advocating on Stella and Stepping Stone's behalf.
Okay. And is there a model in place for the candidates as well, or
yeah, it's premium. So you can download Stella and you can use Stella to go out and do as many matches as you want. And then once you've decided that this is a job I want to apply for, again, back to clarity and confidence, you'll spend a credit to create the live resume, which is a combination of three things. It's a job match summary. So explaining here's where you're particularly strong, and again, using generative capabilities to do that, as well as those developmental gaps that we've talked about. And then we take their resume and we point out, hey, you've made reference to critical thinking skills. We've got some evidence of that. This is really important over here on the employer side of things. So let's beef that up a bit. And again, this is where we start to diverge from keyword matching games, right? We're not going to say they want critical thinking skills over there, so let's make sure we put it in your resume. We're not going to do that. If it's not there, it's going in your development list, or if it is there and it's not loud enough, we're going to help make sure the student tells that story. And then the third piece is a video interview or a video introduction. We think every candidate, every college student should get to that first interview, so we're going to give it to them by allowing them to do a video introduction. And that's what gets over then to an employer.
Okay. So that is all super helpful. And when you think about where you fit in the market, I'm sure you're running up against, there are a bunch of tools that are just focused on career offices and early career candidates. Then you've got, on the employer side, recruitment marketing, ATSs, so much swirling around. How do you see, where do you see Stepping Stone fitting into this HR tech stack or recruitment tech stack ecosystem?
Yeah, and then back to your question a few minutes ago, kind of what have you learned since you started this thing? I think learning about the complexity of, and to some degree, maybe the fractured nature of HR technology. We feel like we found kind of this crevice or this space that we're not an ATS, but we interact with one. We're not a job board because the world doesn't need another job board, but we interact with them. We kind of augment the experience that candidates are having on existing job boards. We're not going to build a learning platform because there's plenty of learning content out there, but we're going to work with those. Same thing on like video interviewing, right? There's great video interviewing tools out there, and those continue to kind of proliferate across the market. But we think that's important, and so we want a piece of that. And so we want to augment the experience that candidates and employers and in career services who are working with both have, kind of within the boundaries of all of those things. And so we're not an ATS, we don't compete there, but we think we can actually improve and bring value to organizations who've got an ATS that maybe doesn't have as intelligent of matching and the generative capabilities. And so we can help with that. And again, students don't need another place to go look for jobs. How do we help augment their experience in places where they've already been coached to look, whether it's Simplicity or Handshake or LinkedIn and those types of tools? So where do we fit in the marketplace? We feel like we kind of have this space in the middle that we're kind of using some of the best capabilities that are out there, or at least tapping into some of those, but delivering that personalized experience that's unique to us.
Yeah. And it sounds like, so much for the students and early careers, it happens outside of that, Handshake portal or whatever portal's been provided by the career services office. But that's also one of the big blind spots for career services. But because you've got Stella involved, you're able to bring that data back and connect the dots between where are your students actually finding opportunities, where are they going to work. Right. That's one of the biggest blind spots. So you're connecting those dots.
100%. Yeah. And I think we just 2 weeks ago, we were on campus with one of our first early adopters. And I got the best compliment I've gotten about the company and about what we've built in the 19 months since we've been up and running. The comment we got from the woman who's in charge of not just career services, but alumni and kind of fundraising the whole bit. Her comment to us was, you're helping me modernize my career services office in a way that I never imagined. And so there's this modernization element to it as well that I hadn't thought about positioning it like that, to be honest. And to hear that out of her, it was like, ugh, yes, that's what we're trying to get done, right? And so we've got business models, we got technology, but at the end of the day, that the competition, as universities have all the struggles and challenges that they've got, helping them create differentiation and modernization for that career service office, that was music to my ears for all the obvious reasons.
Yeah, that's cool. Great feedback. So how's it going? How's the launch been? When you think about success, what kind of traction are you getting? All that.
Yeah, beyond my wildest dreams, and again, in the most stressful, wonderful way ever, right? And so we've got 3 universities who are up and running with us at different levels of kind of stages of implementation. We've got 2 employers, one under MSA, another shortly to be, we suspect. And then with both of those, we've got a pipeline of kind of 4 to 10 additional universities and employers that we're excited about working with. And the challenge in all of this is we want to do all of it, right? But we're a small, mighty team, and let's work through kind of process stuff and technology stuff to make sure that when we're ready to go and handle 10 or 12 universities in the next 3 or 4 months, and the same number on the employer side. So that as we head into 2025 and really start turning up the juice on this, we want to be in hundreds of universities. We want to work with thousands of employers, and we want to impact the lives of hundreds of thousands of students, and we think we can. And so this tension between the excitement of that and making sure V1 works for those parties, we're right at that tension point, and we feel extremely grateful for the early adopters we've got who are taking a shot at a partnership with us and being patient and thoughtful enough with us to work through those things. So that's where we are from a traction standpoint, and I would say we've actually had to turn off the spigot a little bit to make sure we get these first few right.
Okay, that's a good place to be. What about your the capital in the business? Are you have you raised? Are you raising? Are you thinking about it?
Yeah, thinking about it a lot, and that's where a lot of my energy is now. So we started raising. I opened up a pre-seed or friends and family round back at the end of March. I opened up a round of $500,000 to kind of get to where we are now, get V1 of the product, get some product market fit and some substantiation in the market, and bring on a few folks to help with some of that, which we've been able to do. We're going to close that round. We'll have verbal commitments for that round in the next probably 15 to 30 days. So we're there for all intents and purposes. And then I've started to put together some work and in a story to go to do a traditional seed round. And so those are things that are going to be getting a lot of attention now that, again, we see how it might work with an employer. We see how it's going to work on the university side and with students and candidates. And now it's like we need capital to bring that to life and to be able to scale like you traditionally would with a technology company. And so that's work that's happening right now as well.
Yeah, it's a good. It's a good place to be. It sounds like you're not in a place. It's not good to be raising when it's like you're thirsty for it, but to be thinking ahead. You're closing your pre-seed. You've got success with these campuses and a couple of employers. It's a much more strategic process. So good on you for that. And I'm curious, just shifting gears a little bit. So you've been doing all of this in what is, if I called it an interesting market, it's like an understatement. How have you felt about launching this business in this market?
Yeah. Like wonderfully frustrated, and frustrated in terms of the stress that comes with kind of dealing with all of it, right? And the progression I think about this is a year and a half ago or whatever, I had an idea, right? So I started scribbling some ideas, and then I kind of turned that idea into a project, and then was clever enough through kind of my experience to turn that project into gather a bunch of feedback and figure out what a product might look like. So we pivoted from project to product. And so then we've built a product, and we're kind of going through this next metamorphosis of we've got a really good product, we think, and now how do we actually turn this into a business? And so to your question of how has it been? I'm out in uncharted waters for me in terms of launching a business like this. I've started other things, or I've been a part of other things that were early in their development. But nothing like this, or something like that has the potential that something like this does. And so how has it been? My biggest friend and the thing that's been of most value to me is persistence. It's like literally getting to this chair every day and getting in making progress on. And some days there's big wins, and some days there's incremental, kind of small, seemingly small wins. But every day there's a win, and it starts with getting to this chair. And so I don't think about it as how do I launch and build a business that sells for some crazy multiple someday. Maybe that happens. That would be fantastic if it did. But like, what do I need to get done today? And then starting to think about kind of what do we need to get done in the next 2 weeks kind of thing. And starting to look further than that. So how have I felt about that? This is kind of hitting all the buttons for me. This is big time problem solving. It's all collaborative. I get to build a team and bring resources. I've had the opportunity to build a team around it and handpick that. And I get to show up and be me every day. One of our core values is authenticity, and I get to show up and be me every day. And so that's the wonderfully part of it. The frustrating part is I want to know how the story ends, and I don't get to know that.
Right. So it sounds like for all the I love the approach, and I love the answer. I think for all of the uncertainty in the market and all of the stuff that's happening out there that can just drive you nuts. You're focused on, you talk about your desk, and you're focused on your team, and starting with the day, and then the ability to look forward. I mean, I think that's to be aware of what's happening out there, but not to be, not to let yourself be on that roller coaster ride, impact what you have control over. That's a great way to approach it.
Yeah, it's cooking, not baking, right? It's not prescriptive in terms of the recipe to follow to get to the outcome. It's cooking, right? So I'm going to throw some of this here and here. That tastes pretty good. Or you throw that in here and you get some feedback. Too salty. Let's not do that. And it's hard to see on screen, but I'm 6'7", and I'm not a petite 6'7", so cooking is kind of in my wheelhouse. So that resonates with me. And again, it's kind of figuring out what ingredients go in the dish today based on what your audience, your customers want. And the beautiful part about that is all you have to do is be patient and humble enough to ask, because they'll tell you, right? And so you've got to bring some ideas, and you've got to bring some structure to it, but they'll tell you what they like and what they don't like. And gosh, it's wildly valuable. And like I said earlier, to have now real people voting with their time and budgets to help validate that, beyond my wildest dreams.
Yeah, that's great. So, Eric, I want to thank you for all the time. We've kind of used it up, and I want to thank you also for your transparency and all of the insight you shared around yourself, as well as Stepping Stone and where you're headed. I learned a lot, and I'm sure everybody did. And I'm certain that folks will want to learn more. Where can they go to do that?
Yeah, check us out. The website's now live, and so we're at mysteppingstone.ai, mysteppingstone.ai. You can learn more there. You can reach out and get some more information from us, a chance to meet me and meet the team if you're interested, and we'd love to do that. And before we go, not miss the opportunity to thank you, George, for what you've done, not for just today, but as someone who gets to participate at the HR Tech Show, in the Investor Summit, and be a part of Pitch Fest. Those are such great opportunities for companies like us, and our peers who will be participating there as well. So thank you for curating that. That's a really great and unique experience. And again, avenues for companies like us that we wouldn't otherwise have or become more challenging without that. So thanks for taking the time to do that.
Well, it is really my pleasure. And sometimes it feels like they call it like a labor of love. It's, the market, I think, is better off when we get to meet more founders and learn about more of the emerging technology. And so thanks for being a part of it. Well, and thanks again for your time. We'll do this again a little further down the road. We'll check in on all of this and see how it's going.
I can't wait. Again, thanks for the opportunity today. Great to chat as always.
All right. Take care. And thanks everyone for watching, listening. You can find all of this at oneworktech.com or on the Work Defined network. And until next time.